From the beginning of the war, there had been complaints about the shoddy supplies given to Canadian soldiers. Their boots rotted in the mud. Their uniforms disintegrated. Their trenching shovels were utterly useless. Even more troubling was the Ross rifle. Thousands of Canadian infantrymen found themselves frantically trying to free jammed mechanisms in the face of an attack. It is replaced by the British rifle, the Lee Enfield. Canon Frederick Scott is unforgiving.
The Ross rifle is the greatest crime ever perpetrated against the soldier boys and their loved ones. The blood of Canadians wasn't worth the filthy gold that somebody made out of it.
Colonel Sam Hughes, the Minister of Militia, was responsible for many of the munitions and equipment that ended up on the field. He championed the Ross rifle. He was also responsible for giving his cronies contracts. Sam Hughes is fired in 1916. That is when Joseph Flavel, a rich and successful businessman, takes charge. His slaughterhouse and bacon exporting business had helped earn Toronto its Hogtown label. Flavel is also a fervent churchgoer and non-drinker with impeccable business credentials. He immediately imposes strict profit margins.
The waste and extravagance in securing supplies for war is appalling and must run into fabulous figures.
Then, Flavel visits the front. War has become a big business for Canadian manufacturers, but they are not geared up to meet the challenge, and Flavel chastises them about delays and poor quality. As for profits...
Profits? I come straight from the seat of a nation, where they are sweating blood to win this war. And I stand before you stripped of many ideas. Profits? Send profits to hell, where they belong.
But profits soon become Joseph Flavel's worst nightmare. He is shattered by a terrible revelation printed across the front pages of countless newspapers and magazines. Saturday Night Magazine accuses Flavel of profiteering.
The most sordid and despicable trafficking, namely the accumulation of great wealth out of the blood and agony of those who fight in the trenches and of their women and children who are now living scantily on the pittance of a soldier's pay.
Joseph Flavel insists he is innocent. The accusations arise from the fact that his pork trading business, the William Davies Company, had earned a profit of nearly 80% in 1916 and again in 1917. A royal commission clears Flavel of all charges of unethical business practices, but the war is a crusade and there are no shades of gray. Flavel will be forever scorned as the Baron of Bacon.
Shall we close this chapter? It is all over, except the unfortunate remembrance in every part of Canada that I am to be remembered after the war as a profiteer.
While fortunes are being made and reputations shattered, Elsa Michener puts her knitting aside to produce shells. Manpower shortages had opened the doors of the munitions factories to women.
It was bitterly cold. Your feet were frozen, and the rest of you was just roasting because all the machinery was hot. You could smell the hot, molten metal. And when we were on the way out, there was one great big doorway where you could look and see. They'd open the furnace, and it would just look like hell.
It is barely more lucrative than office work and certainly more dangerous. The chemicals burn skin and ruin clothing. But Elsa Michener does her bit, her skin turning sallow, her hair orange. She is promoted to the position of inspector at Toronto's Fairbanks Morse shell factory. The worry and stress is taxing, and after a year and a half, she quits.
I couldn't stand that inspector's job. I couldn't stand it because some of the girls in that group, and some were my friends, were laughing and talking too much and not watching exactly what they were doing. And that worried me. I just had nightmares that I passed a shell that had been imperfect and might kill our own boys. I wanted to get out of it.
At the front, the 4 divisions of the Canadian Army are stockpiling an incredible amount of munitions for the greatest battle in their history, Vimy Ridge.